Flooding, levees breached.
It went from maybe 3 inches to like 1.5 in a matter of minutes.
Water and fire, blown transformers burning through homes, and that's not all.
This is not over. We still have more weather to deal with.
The superstorm bringing relentless snow, and through it all, words of assurance and resolve.
This is a tough time for a lot of people, but America's tough.
Tonight, Sandy is far from over as the superstorm moves west. Right now, waves up to 24 feet rushing to the shores of Lake Michigan and blizzard conditions in parts of West Virginia.
As for people in the Northeast, it could be days before their lives return to normal. At least 50 people are dead, more than 8 million without power. More on that in a minute, but first, let's get right to the Storm Patrol Center to show you what Sandy is doing right now.
Well, Emily showed you those waves that are crashing ashore in Lake Michigan. Let's take a look at what's left of Sandy, and we'll focus in on Chicago on the left-hand side of your screen, okay? Windy conditions, waves coming ashore there in Lake Michigan, downtown Chicago. This is a storm that stretches all the way from Chicago up into Maine and even into Canada. The storm's still about 1,100 miles across. It was a concentrated storm a few days ago. Now it's starting to unwind, starting to get weaker, but still affecting areas from the Great Lakes all the way through the Northeast. Heaviest rain actually was in Boston earlier today, where they saw some heavy downpours for about 2-3 hours or so. Story in Southwest Florida, windy conditions and cooler temperatures moving in on the backside of Sandy. Our morning temperatures today were in the 40s in some spots. Now we're falling through the 60s. We're at 61 in LaBelle, 62 in Port Charlotte, 63 in Cape Coral. Winds dying down a little bit. Those winds at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Not only cooler air, but relatively drier air with some of our dew points still in the 40s. We actually have some more cool air that's going to make its way into Southwest Florida by the end of the week. That's going to affect your forecast for the weekend and your trick-or-treat forecast. I'll tell you exactly what it's going to be like for all the kids heading out for Halloween tomorrow night coming up.
Superstorm Sandy still making history one day after making landfall.
Chris Welch continues our team coverage tonight from New York.
All of a sudden, the East River just kept creeping block by block.
Reliving the horror of Superstorm Sandy. With daybreak came a sobering dose of reality. Entire neighborhoods buried in sand, homes unrecognizable, roads unpassable, and trees toppled.
We just all heard it crash, and we all just started panicking.
Now it's time to assess and move forward.
Restoring power and mass transit remain the two biggest challenges in the days ahead. That recovery is a mammoth job.
The storm, known as Sandy, will haunt much of the East Coast for quite some time. Winds too strong, water too high, and an impact hundreds of miles wide, almost too much to comprehend.
We're not exactly sure where to go from here besides calling the insurance company. I mean, it's pretty devastating.
At least 80 homes in Queens were destroyed in a chain reaction electrical fire. And about 260 patients at the NYU Langone Medical Center had to be evacuated, some down 15 flights of stairs. By daybreak, hundreds of people in New Jersey had to be rescued after a levee was breached. And problems kept multiplying. 2 to 3 feet of snow in West Virginia, sewage spilling into floodwaters in Howard County, Maryland, waves rising along Lake Michigan. The storm shut down the New York Stock Exchange, international airports, subways, and train service.
Southwest Florida International Airport canceling more than a third of its flights today because of Sandy. The airport telling us they canceled 57 flights to airports like LaGuardia, JFK, and Atlantic City. Passengers we found at RSW were hoping for the best.
I'm anxious to get back to Philadelphia to check on our summer place in Strathmere, New Jersey.
Baltimore will still be working too. I'd rather be stuck here than in Atlanta.
RSW telling Fox 4 the best thing passengers can do is check with their airline carrier for the most accurate information.
A Fort Myers man is dead after being accidentally run over by his friend. Happened at a home on Prosperity Way in Colonial Country Club neighborhood. Police say 72-year-old Robert Morgan was hit when his friend accidentally backed a moving truck over him. Police say they're still investigating and no charges have been filed at this point.
In the races you decide, the clock is ticking to Election Day, now just 1 week away. And it seems one face that's been scarce in our area lately is popping back up tonight, vying for every last vote he can get. Our Gabrielle Saran asking incumbent Democrat Bill Nelson if a recent poll has him concerned.
Emily, with election night 8 days away and early voting in full swing, it is a big week in Southwest Florida. So much so that Senator Bill Nelson made a local campaign stop earlier. It is the third since the start of the year. Before a full house at this favorite Southwest Florida cafe, Senator Bill Nelson makes his final pitch.
I want to ask you for your vote.
He stressed the divide in Washington and how it has hurt the country.
The way you govern the country is not to go off in your corner, your extremist corners, and pout. You bring people together.
Nelson is the incumbent in a tight Senate race against Congressman Connie Mack. The most recent Rasmussen poll shows Nelson posting 49% to Mack's 46%. According to the most recent Rasmussen poll, Mack is trailing you by just 3 points. Is that worrisome?
Rasmussen is a typically Republican poll, but it's one of the polls. So don't look at just one.
Even more worrisome to voters is how often Nelson has visited Southwest Florida. Senator, I understand you visited Lee County twice since the beginning of the year. Why? Why just twice?
Well, how many times have I visited Lee County in the last 12 years that I've been senator? I wish I could be every place at once. I haven't figured out how to clone myself.
But that's of little concern to this leader of Lee County's 4-H'ers, an environmentalist who supports Nelson.
The fact that bringing both sides of the parties together to get things done, that's really what impressed me the most.
Tomorrow, Senator Nelson will be campaigning on the east coast of Florida. In the newsroom, Gabrielle Saran, Fox 4, in your corner.